Our next speaker, we first heard him exactly 30 years ago today. There are few people in the world who are better known than this man, and this man has touched pretty much every one of us. Tony Gordon is truly a master glassblower. A 36-year member of MDRT, Tony has 35 top-of-the-table qualifications. He has served MDRT in almost every capacity, from MCC to PDC. So he's not just speaking, he's sharing. In 2001, Tony was president of MDRT, and he continues to share his amazing stories and his wisdom to our members all around the world. Join me with a huge welcome for my friend and mentor, Tony Gordon.
There's no such word as can't. There is no such word as can't. These words are my abiding memory of my maternal grandmother. She was large and cuddlesome, an ever-present feature in my childhood. Tidy your room, my mother would say. I can't. Do your homework. I can't. And from the armchair in the corner would come, there's no such word as can't. When, at age 22, I found myself in this, our business of amazing opportunity, I thought I could do this job. As prospects number 1 and 2 didn't buy, and 3, 4, and 5, and 10, 15, and 20, I hope I can do this job. And 25, 30, 35, 40, still no sale. Maybe I can't do this. My grandmother's words would ring in my mind. There's no such word as can't. God bless prospect number 43. That other great Englishman, Winston Churchill, liked to say, difficulties mastered are opportunities won. Wasn't it a great introduction? 36 years MDRT, 35 years top of the table, past president of MDRT. Were you expecting somebody taller? Or maybe an intellectual, perhaps? Intellectual I am not. I left school at 16. I hadn't intended to leave school. They said, we didn't kick you out, but we are certainly not taking you back. One of my masters taught at the school for 40 years, and for all of his 40 years he kept a notebook. And the last page of his notebook was titled, Boys Who Will Never Be a Success at Anything. Over 40 years, only 3 boys ever qualified for this special designation. But isn't it a sad way to label a child? Let me tell you what happened to these boys who would never succeed at anything. The first became a professional golfer. He won the British Open, made millions designing golf courses around the world. Even now, in his 80s, he is still the #1 golf commentator on British television. The second boy became a journalist, thought he'd like to try writing a novel. So far, he has over 40 bestsellers to his credit. Several of them are Hollywood movies. And the third boy who would never succeed at anything, he became the 74th president of the $1 Million Round Table. Is there a moral to this? We must never let others sit in judgment on our potential. How did I get into this business? Question should be why, not how. I was short of money, struggling to pay rent on a one-room apartment, run a car, chase girls. I thought if I could get a job with a company car, life would be so much simpler. Who gets company cars? Salespeople, of course. So I started to apply for jobs in selling, but no one was interested. Except for this nice man who said he'd give me the opportunity to sell life insurance. Company car? Not even a wage. My family thought I was crazy. I said, I'm going to be a financial advisor. You mean you're going to sell life insurance? Was the reply. My problem in those early years was simple. I had no real goals. I'd tell my manager every month how many sales I wanted to make, but it was to keep him happy. I have a granddaughter, Emmy. Now, I know what you're thinking. Surely, he's much too young to be a grandfather. I have 4 grandchildren. In my country, at the end of the school year, every school has a sports day where all the kids run races against each other. I went to Emmy's first school sports day when she was 4 years old. Picture this, teacher surrounded by beautiful 4-year-old girls. The one on the left is mine. Beautiful 4-year-old girls, about 25 yards over here. 2 older pupils holding a tape across what is obviously the running track. And all the proud mums and dads, grandmas and papas, all in a line, waiting to cheer for our own. And the teacher says to the children, when I say go, I want you to run as fast as you can. Are you ready? Are you set? Go! And they scattered in every direction. Why? They didn't have a goal. Our goals give us direction. Think of the GPS or the sat-nav in the car. What does it ask? City, street, house number, zip code. Only with a clearly defined destination can we plan our route. And if we don't know where we want to go, we might end up somewhere we might not like being. With the destination, we can plan the route. Where do I want to be at the end of the year? At the end of each month? The end of each week? And if we have the courage, at the end of each day? Setting daily goals gives us a sense of urgency to do now, today, what needs to be done today. It's what we do each day that will determine our failure or our success in this business. Failure and success is something we practice on a daily basis. Now, it takes courage to set daily goals. It's much easier to have a goal for the year. If we have a goal for the year, we only face failure once a year, don't we? It's the 31st of December. If I can just remember where I put the piece of paper with my goal written on, I'll know whether I've succeeded or failed this year. Set a daily goal. We have to go home at the end of every day, face ourselves in the mirror and answer the question, did I succeed or did I fail today? It takes courage. But I will give you a guarantee. Those who have the courage to set daily goals will always, always be more successful than those who don't. How about this for a goal? Make 1 more appointment each week. That's all. 1 more appointment each week. It's 50 for the year. 40 of them will be there. The closing average in this room is at least 1 in 4. so 10 of them will buy. If the average commission is, say, $1,000, it's an extra $10,000 of income from one more appointment each week. Picture this. When we go home from this meeting and our much beloved says, "Did you get any good ideas at the meeting?" we can say, darling, one of the speakers said if I make one more appointment each week, you can have an extra $10,000 to spend this year. What do you think, darling? And what do you think your darling will say? I know what my darling would say. Make two. Where should our prospects come from? Referrals, of course. Cold call if we must, but remember, cold calling is God's punishment for not asking for referrals. If we don't have enough prospects, it is because we are simply not asking often enough. And we should aim to have more referrals than we can possibly see in order that we can start to select who we want to call on. And do our clients know we want to be referred? Every letter we send should have a PS on the bottom. Every email should have a footer saying, "Our business grows by referral. We would appreciate being introduced to family members, colleagues, and friends who you think might benefit from our advice." If we tell our clients often enough that we value being referred, it just might start to happen. And join LinkedIn. It's like Facebook for business and professional people. And when we join LinkedIn, we can link to our clients. And then we can see who else they're linked to. And then we can pick 2 or 3 names from the people they're connected to. And next time we see our client, we can say, "I was looking through your connections on LinkedIn, and I noticed there were 3 names there who are on the list of people I want to contact. What can you tell me about these 3 people?" Obviously, anything you and I have ever discussed will always remain confidential. But you don't mind if I mention that we know each other, that you're a client of mine, do you? And we've earned referrals without even having to ask for them. We succeed for many reasons in this business. But we only fail to reach our goals for one: lack of discipline. Our success does not come by closing easy sales. Our success comes when we lose hard-fought ones and have the courage, the discipline to come back and try again. Excellence. Excellence is just doing the ordinary, but doing it extraordinarily well. You see, there are no extraordinary people in our business, but there are some ordinary people who discipline themselves to achieve extraordinary results. Millionaires are not queuing up to get into our business, but some of the people who come into our business discipline themselves and become millionaires. And here's a discipline for us to try. Never go home on a negative. On those days when everything goes wrong, go back to the office, make calls until somebody says yes to an appointment. We should try to end every day with a positive result. Of course, not everybody buys from us. Some people say, "I don't believe in life insurance." Do they ever say this where you live? We should tell them, you don't have to believe in life insurance. It's not a religion. Life insurance is just risk management. It passes the risk from families and businesses who cannot afford it to institutions who can afford it. I'd tell a client, at your age, out of every 1,000 people, 10 of you will die this year. And the insurance company does not care if you are one of the 10, because 990 are still paying the premiums. They've only lost 1%. But without the insurance, the loss of you to your family is 100%. It's just risk management. Let's pass the risk from your family who cannot afford it to the insurance company who can. Our clients do not buy because they understand. Our clients buy because they feel understood. Tell clients there is no miracle to life insurance. It just replaces money that we do not yet have. I'd ask a client, if the amount of money that you want to give your family the security you want for them is, let's say, $1 million. Do you have $1 million? No. Then take the life insurance. Start to save, start to invest. When you have $1 million of your own, you can throw away the life insurance. And depending on the type of policy, we might even give you back your premiums. Life insurance simply replaces money we want, but don't yet have. And here's an idea. Sell to grandparents. We grandparents have more money, more time, and a great reason to buy. What's the sweetest sound a person ever hears? Haven't we always been told it's the sound of our own name? Wrong. The sweetest sound a person ever hears is when a little child says, "I love you, Grandma. I love you, Papa." Would I buy life insurance for my grandchildren? I would give my life for my grandchildren. Giving them life insurance is easy. I have endowment policies for my 4 grandchildren, money to help them when they become young adults. I started a retirement plan for each of them at birth. The premium for each of them is $4,500 a year. If I pay the premiums until they're 18 years of age, I will have put $80,000 into each of their plans. $80,000 growing tax-free outside my estate. By the time my grandchildren retire, each of those plans will be worth over $2 million. Now, I may not be around to see my grandchildren retire, but do you think they'll remember their papa fondly? I think they will. And how to be referred to grandparents? Simply say to clients, we find those clients who get the best value from us are where we don't act for our client in isolation, but where we act for their whole family. Will you introduce me to your mother? They'll say, why? We can invariably get a higher return for our older clients, and usually with less tax. If we get a better return for your mother, then she'll have a better standard of living. If ever she needs care, she'll be less likely to have to call on you for help. And when her time does come, there'll be more for you and your family to inherit. Will you introduce me to your mum? I shared this idea with another MDRT member. Within 30 days, he'd earned over $80,000 just doing business with the mothers of his clients. And for older clients, we find those clients who get the best value from us are where we don't act for the client in isolation, but where we act for the whole family. Will you introduce me to your children? And we've accessed the next generation. And do we believe in the value we bring to our clients? For no one will ever place a higher value on us than we place upon ourselves. It was 1984, my 15th year in the business, before I truly appreciated the value of what we do. I was successful by then. I'd made top of the table half a dozen times. I'd settled a handful of claims. But one incident cemented my belief. Back in 1973, my 4th year in the business, I'd made a large sale to a very difficult prospect. The sale was made by using 4 little words. They're magic words. If we want to make bigger sales, learn these words. What do you want? If we want our closing average to improve, understand the power of the question. What do you want? What do you want as income for your family in the event of your untimely death? What do you want as income for yourself when you no longer want to or may no longer be able to work anymore? Voltaire said, "Judge a man by his questions rather than by his answers." What question could be more powerful than one which gets through to the deepest motivation of an individual? What do you want? When we know what a prospect wants, it repositions us. Tell a prospect what they need, we are selling to them. Find out what they want, we are helping them to buy. It's a tiny, subtle difference, worth millions. Why? Because what our prospects want for themselves and their families will always be so much greater than just their needs. I'll prove it to you. If God forbid I don't make it home from this meeting, my family do not need the homes we own, they don't need the cars we drive, but I would want them to be able to live in the world I created. When my younger daughter left home, I said to Eve, my wife, I said, "Darling, we don't need this big house anymore. Let's downsize to something smaller." And she said, "We may not need this house anymore, but this is where I want to live." She also said, "It's okay, you can move if you want to, but I'm staying." There are 3 cars in the driveway for 2 people who live there. Why? Because what our prospects and clients want for themselves and their families will always be greater than just their needs. So, come back with me to 1973, my difficult client. He told me what he wanted for his retirement, the security he wanted for his wife. Now move forward those 11 years to 1984. My client suffered a massive stroke, leaving Joan, his wife, his widow. After the funeral, back in their home, she drew me aside and said, "I have just 2 questions for you. Can I afford to stay in my home? Will I still be able to buy presents for my grandchildren?" Isn't this what our business is really about? Being able to answer yes to questions like this? Yes, you can afford to retire. Yes, you can stay in your own home. Yes, you will still be able to buy presents for your grandchildren. 29 years have passed since Joan asked me those questions. For almost all of those 29 years, Joan lived in her own home. When care was needed, the best was affordable. And none of her 18 grandchildren and great-grandchildren ever had a birthday without receiving a gift paid for by their grandfather's life insurance. At Joan's last birthday, her 92nd, surrounded by her family, fortuitously, all her family were there because it was her last birthday. Surrounded by children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all singing happy birthday, I silently gave thanks for the life insurance I persuaded my father to buy. Do I believe in what we do? Better. And do we believe in our right to succeed? I make no apology for saying here what I've said 1,000 times before. We can achieve anything we want to achieve in this business if first we'll have the courage to believe we can achieve it. It truly is our self-belief which will set the parameters for our achievements. We can never do more than we believe we are capable of doing. Raise our self-belief and we raise our success. Several years ago, I met a lady called Mary Peters. Mary in her youth had been an athlete. Her event was the heptathlon, 7 disciplines over 2 days. And Mary was selected to represent my country at the 1968 Olympics. Now, Mary thought this was the pinnacle of her athletic career. She thought it could get no better than being selected to represent her country. Mary arrived at the Olympic Village, where there she was sharing a room with 2 American athletes. When the American girls arrived, they each opened the suitcase, took out a hammer and a nail, and they hammered the nail into the wall above their beds. And Mary asked, "Why are you doing this?" And they replied, "To hang our medals from." And one won gold and the other one bronze. And Mary went home a wiser girl. She realized being selected to represent her country, selected to compete, is not the same as winning. Only winning can be the pinnacle of a career. Only reaching our goals, fulfilling our potential, can be the pinnacle of our careers. Mary discovered the difference between being in the event and winning the event, down to her self-belief. She worked hard, trained hard for 4 more years. Once again, she was selected. This time, she did not go to compete. She went to win. And because now she believed she would, she brought home the gold medal. In the Olympics, there can only be one winner. In our business, we can all be winners. The medals for court of the table, top of the table, will always go to those with the greatest self-belief. And there is room on the winner's podium for all of us. When we go back to work after this meeting, take a hammer and a nail into your office. Hammer the nail into the wall above your desk. And when your manager or your colleagues ask why, tell them it's to hang my top of the table certificate from. Well, in closing, let me share with you a story of a different victory. I told you earlier about my granddaughter, Emmy. She's 11 years old now. Last year, she started learning to play the cello. She had her first exam, her first one-to-one, face-to-face exam with a stranger. I called to ask how she got on. She said, "Papa, I was so nervous. I thought, I can't do this." So I pretended the examiner was you, Papa, because I know everything is always okay when I'm with you. She scored 80%, earned a merit, and she is learning a lesson. When we get home from this meeting, can we call the big prospects? Can we close the big cases? First timers, can we make it back here next year? Can we? Can we make the court of the table? Can we make the top of the table? Emmy is learning, just like her papa did before her. There is no such word as can't.